Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I am your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on historic Market Street in Corning, and we have a lot to cover this morning. It's the big day, the first joint interview with Kamala Harris and Coach Walz since, well, even before the official nomination. We're going to be talking about that, needless to say. I want to hear your opinion on it. We also have, well, a special guest a little bit later on. We're going to be talking with Karen Cromer from the Clemens Center. Find out what is happening in this Broadway season at the Clemens Center. First, just a couple of quick why you need to know who you're voting for, specifically at the local level. Now, we've talked about Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard out of Dolton, Illinois. She's been accused of spending taxpayer dollars lavishly on trips, personal security, using the police force actually as personal security. The list goes on and on. This is all alleged, of course. When the town council voted, I think it's town council, it's not city, town council, voted unanimously to audit the finances of Dolton, she vetoed it. Well, now her ally, her close friend, or who she thought was her close friend, former assistant and town trustee, turned on Dolton, and they call her Dolton dictator now. I don't like that. I still like Super Mayor. Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, because she called herself Super Mayor, and she had those posters, again by taxpayers' expenses, posted all over town. Thornton Township Board Trustee Carmen Carlisle has now accused the self-proclaimed Super Mayor of unethical and predatory behavior to increase her influence in the community. She told WGN, which stands for the world's greatest newspaper, if you didn't know, that today I'm breaking my silence and speaking out against Thornton Township Supervisor and Mayor of Dolton, Tiffany Henyard, who I believe has engaged in unethical and predatory behavior throughout her tenure. For the past 2 years, Henyard has manipulated employees, vendors, and residents using her position to increase her influence, all while projecting a false image of success, funded by the hardworking taxpayers of Thornton Township and the village of Dolton. Now, Henyard believed this woman to be an ally. Kind of looks like now we could be seeing a political opponent with this statement. Henyard, who was elected back in 2021, has faced mounting allegations of malfeasance in office, including misuse of taxpayer funds. You've heard all about it. We've talked about it quite extensively. The whistleblowing trustee said she remained quiet about the lavish trips and other outlandish spending at recent board meetings because she, quote, trusted the administration. Well, I'll ignore those lavish trips and what seems like, I mean, we had those numbers the other day of what they spent on Amazon and Wayfair, but now she trusted the administration, but no longer. I am standing up not just for myself, but for others who have been affected by what I see as Henyard's abusive leadership. I believe there are many more victims who have been retaliated against, fired, or lied to by Henyard, but have yet to speak out. Henyard didn't remain quiet against the once loyal trustee, coining a new nickname while blaming everyone for the charade. She does blame everyone, doesn't she? And I don't know why I find this so fascinating, so please humor me for just a moment at the beginning of the program. I think I'm going to get you a new nickname, Lion Carlisle, Henyard said in front of a packed audience at a special meeting. They have a lot of special meetings and a lot of special meetings with packed audiences. But this is what happens when you vote for someone, when you don't really know why you're voting for them or if they will do a good job. And then look what happens. Then you're forced to speak at public comment and not really have anything done. So Henyard said, I'm tired of everyone in here. There always has to be a show. At the end of the day, this is what she said, according to the Lansing Journal. This is Henyard. At the end of the day, you was on this board. We never talked about this, right? So you should have been putting the same energy in play when you weren't saying a word a year ago, some months ago. The reason I didn't, and so Carlisle shot back, the reason I didn't ask questions was because I trusted the administration. I trusted the process. The moment I didn't trust the process, I started asking questions. I worked as your assistant. I saw a lot. I heard a lot. The first time I ever really questioned supporting you is when you went on this national platform and you said you didn't know anything about a foundation, but you forgot that I was in certain rooms when certain things happened. This is a foundation which Henyard has denied any involvement with, and the foundation is called Tiffany A. Henyard Cares Foundation. She has denied that is hers. The foundation, which purports to support cancer patients, was given a $10,000 donation from the town board in September of 2022, the same day it was chartered with the state. A month later, Henyard organized a 10-day walk and bike ride across the state to Springfield in the name of the foundation, but charged most of the trip to the Dalton credit card, totaling $11,000 in hotel, restaurant, photographers, DJs, and supplies. Enough on that. Just another example, and here's one more example just to kick off the program. In Boston, a young man decided he was going to raise some money for what is called the Boston Bear Cubs. It's a hockey team that features players with physical and developmental disabilities. His own brother, who is autistic, is on the team. So he decides, and probably because his parents are in this business, to have an ice cream stand to fundraise. I think you know where this is going. Some neighbors decided they didn't like the ice cream stand and complained. So the town has now sent a letter to shut down this charitable ice cream stand. As we have called it in the past, a very Barney Fife, little taste of power. Make sure to shut down. Probably didn't have the proper permits. I don't know if it says here how young. Oh, 12 years old. Danny Doherty, 12 years old. They shut down his fundraising ice cream stand because of probably some bureaucracy. The first day they gave away the ice cream and just accept donations. Supplies ran out in 10 minutes and they raised $1,000. Well, it continued. Town officials, and this always happens after the backlash. If no one complained, meaning if no one complained about them shutting it down, they would have been happy to go about their way. But town officials, meanwhile, said they received hate mail and death threats over the dispute. And I'm not denying that they received hate mail, death threats. That's unfortunate. I do know that that's kind of a common thing that's said, I believe, very often to shut down anybody complaining. But this is what they said. They argued the family had sold their homemade ice cream before and even promoted it on social media. The letter, officials said, was only sent after the town received several complaints and unsuccessfully tried to contact the family. Now, this is something, just to hear the other side of the story, the Dohertys dispute that claim. Tony Mazzucco, Norwood's town manager, so it's actually outside of Boston in Norwood. We had to deal with staff who were upset that they were being threatened. People had gone online and found their addresses simply for sending a letter after having reached out to somebody and said, look, there's a violation here. It's the first time in recent memory that the town has shut down an ice cream stand, he said, adding that Massachusetts law allows for things like lemonade stands and bake sales, but not homemade ice cream. Well, good for following the letter of the law, sir. Mizuko also said there was a legitimate health concern since homemade ice cream can be contaminated. Oh, okay. Looking out for the town's safety. It's unbelievable. All right. This is why it's important to vote at the local level, folks. What do you think about those two prime examples? Hey, another quick update as we're starting off with just some wild stories this morning. A couple quick questions to start off the program, because these are topics we're going to bring up later on in the show. What do you expect from tonight's, well, it's pre-recorded, so it happened yesterday, interview with Kamala Harris and Coach Walls with Dana Bash from CNN? Also, there's an article here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. There's a piece from I believe it was the New York Post this morning, maybe on Fox News. We'll get to it a little bit later on because I don't have it right in front of me. That calls Donald Trump the heir apparent to Ronald Reagan's legacy. Your thoughts on that? J.D. Vance also going after Vice President Harris because of this Arlington story. It's seems like more manufactured drama from the media that is looking for anything negative to stick to Vance and, of course, Trump, and of course, praise Harris, who is yet to give a press conference, who's yet to do a lone interview. Also, I have so much about media bias this morning. I don't even want to give away the headline because it's really the whole story. We'll talk about a few major ones. But one quick update, and you may have forgotten this was still even happening, but a federal appeals court yesterday revived Sarah Palin's defamation suit against the New York Times, ruling that a trial judge committed a series of errors in presiding over the former Republican vice presidential candidate's case. Palin's lawsuit, filed all the way back in 2017, alleged the newspaper defamed her in an editorial about gun violence. The article incorrectly suggested that an ad circulated by Palin's Political Action Committee inspired a 2011 shooting in Tucson, Arizona, where 6 people died, and then Representative Gabrielle Giffords was wounded. The Times issued 2 corrections, and its editorial board tweeted an apology to its readers. Palin, who sued the Times, and former editorial page editor James Bennett said those corrective efforts were insufficient. So it went to trial in 2022, and the jury sided with the Times. But now it is back, for lack of a better word, on the docket. All right, so those are a couple of quick updates. When we come back, Biden, we're going to talk about Harris, we're going to talk about Trump. We even have a couple New York State issues that really I should have probably started with to get your blood boiling this morning, but we'll put that off for a little bit. So stay with us. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. Feel free to weigh in on those topics that I just mentioned, or any topics you'd like to talk about. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Hustleton's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hustleton's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hustleton's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hustleton's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustleton's.
Attention care beneficiaries. beneficiaries. This is an important message for people on Medicare. Today we are talking about Medicare Advantage plans. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, and don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, call now because there may be a Medicare Part C plan with additional benefits available in your zip code. You can call now to find out if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits. Just call 800-351-6177 and a licensed insurance agent can look up your eligibility and plan options and see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan that could save money or include additional benefits. Don't wait. You are not automatically enrolled in a Part C plan with additional benefits. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, call for your free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review. You won't know what plan options are available to you unless you call, so call now. The call is free. Call 800-351-6177, 800-351-6177.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Coming up a little bit later on in the 7 o'clock hour during the Stu Ben Senior Services Fund section of our program, we'll be talking with Karen Cromer from the Clemens Center about the upcoming Broadway season, which is right around the corner in mid-September, starting off with Ain't Too Proud, which is the story of the Temptations, which is kind of cool because I remember probably 20 years ago seeing the actual Temptations at the Clemens Center, so that's pretty cool. All right, let's go to comments from viewers. First off, the ice cream stand is just another example of how laws only apply when people want them to. It is sad. But you are talking about the Boston area. Good point. Have the kids say it's a lemonade stand and that the lemonade tastes like ice cream. Good point. Also, what was the neighbor's name on Bewitched? Right, Gladys. Imagine being that person who says, boy, that's raising a lot of money for charity, for a hockey team, for the developmentally disabled kids. I can't have that in my neighborhood. And calling the town board, and then the town board being scared enough because they get a couple of complaints to shut down the ice cream stand, and then complain when the people that voted for them didn't like it. Now, I'm not saying that if they actually receive death threats, that's inexcusable. That is outrageous. But again, that seems to be thrown around a lot, and nothing charges-wise or anything like that ever seems to come from it. But having said that, if that's the case, inexcusable. But if they're just receiving complaints from the people that voted them in, I'm sorry, you were very willing to cave to one complaint or two complaints about an ice cream stand. So the complaints can go both ways. That when you shut it down, maybe there's some displeasure from the people who voted for you. And it is a prime example, as this viewer said, of how laws only apply at certain times, but also how bureaucracy works, where, well, a lemonade stand's okay and a bake sale is okay, but an ice cream, a homemade ice cream stand is not okay because there could be health issues. Well, there could be some health issues with a bake sale too, couldn't there? I mean, just some major questions there. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Another viewer had this to say: I'm thinking the Harris coach interview will be all softball questions mixed with simple speak, big smiles, joy talk, and pats on each other's back as to how great each other is. I'm envisioning a lot of nods between them as well. Smoke and mirror politics at its pre-recorded, edited best. Thank you. There has been a lot of comments on this upcoming interview. A lot of, for lack of a better term, disappointment that Harris does not believe her abilities capable to do an interview by herself, needs, who was it? I think it was Scott Jennings, who we've been quoting so much lately from CNN, saying she needs that emotional support dog in Tim Walz. Yes, we are going to dive deep into this. I do not have high hopes for it either. It's tonight, I believe, at 9 p.m. on CNN. We are going to get to that quickly, but I want to remind you, here on August 29th that the President of the United States is Joe Biden. You may have forgotten, and no one could blame you, because the news, at least the news I've been watching, very rarely, if ever, mentions him, even though we see a lot of trouble brewing throughout the world. We have so many issues we're facing here at home. And, of course, they're trying to distance Harris from the failed policies of this administration to the extreme. And this just goes to prove the immediate bias, Politico, and we'll get to this a little bit later on and more in depth, but saying that it's J.D. Vance trying to tether Harris to the Biden administration. They're really hoping that you forget she was the vice president in this administration. How does someone try to tether someone to an administration when they are the vice president? This is why, and we had that viewer the other day ask how my feelings were on it. I have a serious unease about how simple it will be for the media to continue the bias and the push to get Harris across the finish line in November. We'll talk about that. But first, I remind you that Biden is president because, remember, he vowed to finish out strong. He is going to finish out strong. And yeah, here he is again, pictured lounging on a Delaware beach yesterday during his second straight week of vacation. Now, this is different than the other 2 weeks he took for debate preparation, which in the end didn't help. But in this case, second straight week of vacation. The 81-year-old spent about 2 hours on the North Shores near, I'm going to try it, I'm going to mispronounce it, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. The leader of the free world looked relaxed in colorful swim trunks, a white t-shirt, and black cap, sitting on a beach chair while combing through documents. It's been nearly 10 days since the president has been in the Oval Office, despite insisting he'd finish out the last few months of his term by continuing to push policy. Biden left the White House August the 19th to head to the Democratic National Convention, where he was giving a rousing speech on the first night that happened to be well past prime time and even past midnight. He opted against staying in Chicago for the other 3 days of the major party gathering, instead jetting off to California, where he stayed at the $37 million estate of Joe Keeney, CEO of medical technology company Maismo. Biden's vacation at the billionaire donor's lavish ranch wrapped up on Sunday when he flew down to this beach vacation he's currently on, where he has a vacation house and is expected to stay through at least Friday. On Labor Day, Biden is scheduled, if you're interested, to stump with Harris in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, marking their first joint campaign appearance since his vice president ascended to the nomination. The DNC has been expected to be Biden's grand coronation, to be the party's standard bearer, and yet this must be kind of his licking his wounds on the beach. Think of that. We can go through the whole last slap in the face where he didn't even get a primetime address at the DNC, which that DNC should have been his. He should have been going for the re-election. But, of course, his own party, in a brutal, vicious fashion, turned on him and had this coup, ousted him. And then again, just to add insult to injury, you had not even a primetime address of what should have been your week. When we come back from this break, it's not just something to laugh about that he's been on a 2-week vacation, because as Miranda Devine says, it shows how callous Biden is as he tans on the beach on the anniversary of his disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. We're going to talk about it when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
T-Mobile's coverage in my area is wonderful.
We have 8 acres, and it gives you peace of mind to know that you're going to have a reliable signal.
We enjoy hiking. We enjoy the outdoors. The coverage has been great.
And after investing billions to light up our network, T-Mobile is America's largest and fastest 5G network. Plus, switch and keep your phone. We'll pay it off up to $800. See how you can save on every plan versus Verizon and AT&T at T-Mobile.com/keep and switch.
I'm Marianne Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This is Frankly Speaking. So Miranda Devine says Joe Biden was sunning himself at the beach and Kamala Harris was holed away with staff in Washington this week as the 3rd anniversary hit of their disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. Only Donald Trump bothered to show up to the wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery for the Gold Star families of the 13 service members killed by a suicide bomber in the chaotic evacuation from Kabul. For a man that they call an unfeeling monster, Trump always manages to outshine Biden and Harris in the empathy stakes. Of course, the media won't cover it. But whether it's meeting with victims of that toxic train derailment in Ohio, visiting a bodega in crime-racked Harlem, or consoling the families of women and children murdered by illegal migrant sexual predators. And how often will you hear, if you go to conservative outlets, with Trump calling those families and Biden refusing in speeches to say those victims' names. At Arlington, Monday, where Trump was a guest of the Gold Star families that Biden and Harris have ignored and disrespected for 3 years, such as looking at their watch, or specifically Biden looking at his watch, the images of the former president solemnly placing a wreath while a woman wept so enraged Democrats who feared it was a political masterstroke that they cooked up another hoax to discredit him. And I'm not sure if you've been following this, but it is another very prime example of media bias and what Trump and Vance will be dealing with, and they know this because Trump's been dealing with it for years, but up until November. Trump-hating outlet NPR, which is funded by your tax dollars, alleged an ugly confrontation between his entourage and a cemetery staffer objecting to their cameras. But Trump campaign produced what appeared to be written permission to bring, quote, an official photographer and or videographer to the ceremony. In any case, the only people who matter are the families who invited him, and they issued a statement of heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Trump on Wednesday. Quote, we are deeply grateful to the president for taking the time to honor our children and for standing alongside us in our grief. They didn't need to point out the fact that Biden and Harris were absent and that they've never met. Biden and Harris have never met with the families or even uttered their names. Uttered the names of those loved ones that were lost in Afghanistan. In fact, in his disastrous debate with Trump in June, Biden forgot all about the 13 fallen and even boasted falsely that he was the only president in this century not to have troops die on his watch. In separate statements from the White House this week, Biden again insisted the biggest debacle of his presidency was a success, and Harris hailed Biden's courageous decision. Harris has boasted that she was fully involved in the debacle as the last person in the room. She reportedly staunchly backed Biden's foolish demand that his generals abandon the airfield and draw down troops to zero, even while advisors in the room were urging caution. Two careless and hubristic leaders forced wiser heads to fall in line. Biden's poll numbers plunged and never recovered afterwards. Watching desperate Afghans falling midair from U.S. planes to which they had clung, voters suddenly saw him in a new light, incompetent, lacking empathy, and refusing to take responsibility for his mistakes. But if you remember, they even tried to put, and it was her husband, Harris, in his speech at the DNC, trying to kind of push that empathy label that they always tell us about with Biden, trying to give that definition to her. The Harris is the empathetic one. Oh, so much empathy. But I think Miranda Devine raises a great point there. Who is that actually talks to these victims' families? Who is it that actually talks to the families of the fallen in Afghanistan? It's Trump. And when Biden in his State of the Union was asked to finally say the name of a victim who was killed by an illegal immigrant, he mispronounced her name. But we'll continue. His callous treatment of the Gold Star families, meaning Biden, was an eye-opener for a nation shaped for 40 years on the mythology of Biden's empathy, earned through tragedy in his own life. In reality, he kept glancing at his watch on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews during the dignified transfer of the flag-draped coffins, then insisted on talking only of his own grief about the death of his son, Beau, to the disgust of the bereaved. That's a good point. And if this were a Trump doing this, looking at his watch, talking about his own loss, we would have never stopped hearing about it. It would continue to this day. But because it was Biden, it was ignored by the mainstream media. The retaliatory drone attacks on ISIS-K that Biden ordered and General Mark Milley boasted was a righteous strike was also botched, killing an innocent aid worker and his children, but no terrorists. And remember that when they lecture you about Israel. The whole catastrophe was a strain on the reputation of this nation, precipitating new boldness from Americans' adversaries, and that's why ultimately led to Russia invading Ukraine. And 3 years on, nobody has been held accountable for the failure that left $85 billion, folks, $85 billion in equipment in Taliban hands and abandoned U.S. citizens and Afghan allies to a terrible fate. Milley, then chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and theater commander General Kenneth McKenzie should have offered their resignation when Biden insisted they follow his absurd demands. They might have averted this disaster. They didn't resign afterwards either, initially calling the operation a monumental accomplishment before belatedly admitting regrets 2 years later. So without getting it more into this, you can find the whole piece for yourself from Miranda Devine. But I thought it was as some will make light about Biden going out strong while on a beach. Remember the anniversary that we talked so much about this week. She finishes by saying, as for the desperate spin emanating from the White House this week that the debacle was Trump's fault. Yes, they actually say it was Trump's fault now. Nobody buys it. Biden's incompetent execution was the problem, not Trump's plan to withdraw from Afghanistan. This was a uniquely Biden-Harris screw-up with the staunch backing of his hapless vice president. I don't know if you saw the J.D. Vance responding to that, by the way. When I say that, I should be more specific. The media trying to suggest there was some confrontation at Arlington National Cemetery. Because, again, they don't want to focus on the empathy. They don't want to focus on those heart-wrenching photos of family members weeping as Trump lays the wreath. They want to focus on some hearsay story about what happened behind the scenes. And I'm gonna put it this way. J.D. Vance had some choice words. We'll talk about it when we come back. Then we're going to get into tonight's big interview. But he had some choice words for Kamala Harris and the media on this. So stay with us Feels like we're just getting started, but we're already a half an hour in. It's 6:33. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Only through Monday, get up to 35% off new sale items during Raymore and Flanigan's Labor Day Super Weekend Sale. Enjoy weekend-only savings throughout the store with up to $1,200 off sectionals, $700 off bedroom sets, and nearly $1,000 off dining sets. Also, save on top mattress brands and enjoy free next-day mattress delivery and removal. Or pay later with 72-month no-interest financing. Save up to 35% only through Monday at Raymore and Flanigan.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
Order call 1-800-970-9843. That's 1-800-970-9843, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
Saturday, your game is on Fox. Because here is where it happens. Saturday on Fox, Judge swaggered up and went supersonic. True story. Saturday on Fox, the Dodgers put on a show in New York. You saw that, right? Saturday on Fox, De La Cruz showed off his record-breaking arm. And it was Saturday on Fox when Harper went all Harper. So yeah, Saturday on Fox.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you for joining us this morning. A comment from a viewer. You might want to mention how the Taliban parades around in the equipment that was left behind in Afghanistan. Very good point. Also, how supposedly we were told that all the equipment was left inoperable. More lies told to the American people. The big question no one is asking, if the equipment was left inoperable, like they claim, then who provided what was needed so they could get it working again? Shouldn't there be an investigation into that? Very good point. Thank you. Now, back to the Arlington Cemetery scandal. I mean, this is... Harris doesn't give an interview in well over 30 days. Even though she became the nominee for the Democratic Party to run for president of the United States and has never received a vote from a Democrat voter for that position. Seems like there should be some questions raised. But the media is fine with it, has not given a lone interview, has not done a press conference. You know, we've talked about it. So many people have talked about it in the past. But yet the media, not critical of that, they find some manufactured scandal where there was some altercation at Arlington. Did you see how J.D. Vance responded? So what happened was, and listen to this, this is a very telling line. In an interview with CNN, a spokesperson for Harris, yes, it's always a spokesperson, Michael Tyler, and you might as well have the posters might as well say spokesperson for Harris 2024, right? That might be a good political yard sign. Because that seems to be who's in charge. Those are the ones saying what her policy positions are, and the U-turns that she's done on policy positions is not coming from her. It's from spokespeople. But Michael Tyler called the incident pretty sad and not surprising, because what was reported is that Trump Trump's campaign, excuse me, not Trump personally. Trump's campaign reportedly got into an altercation with a cemetery official at Arlington National Cemetery who tried to stop them from filming and taking photographs in Section 60. The VP pick was asked to comment on the incident at a campaign event in Erie, Pennsylvania, when he became visibly, it says here, frustrated. I don't know if that's the right word. I would say angry. And I got to be careful here. Now, you may not think this is a real cuss word, perhaps, but we have young people watching. And as summer wraps down, winds down, I know that many kids watch and want to enjoy, frankly speaking, before maybe their schedules change and they won't be able to catch as much before they go to school. I know that's happening throughout the Elmira recording market. So I don't want to use bad language. But this is what J.D. Vance had to say. The other thing that our veterans care more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died. And they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job. And there hasn't been a single investigation or a single firing. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We want to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. Is that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened? And she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up? She can go to heck. How's that? Once summer's over, we'll go blue then. But I don't want these kids to hear cuss words. The altercation at Arlington Cemetery is the media creating a story where I really don't think that there is one. He said, saying the Gold Star families wanted Trump there and that the incident was not an insult to their memories of the fallen service members. The Ohio senator said that an Arlington National Cemetery staff member had a little disagreement with somebody, but the media ran with it to create a national news story. Again, this would have never, ever been an issue if it were Harris or Walz, because the media doesn't even talk about the mischaracterization, if you will, of Walz's title, of when he was in the National Guard. They don't talk about the times that he used maybe titles and rank that he didn't have to benefit his campaign. They don't talk about the DWI charge that his campaign lied about. They said it was going to be an issue. It was a blip. But this is a more manufactured drama so they can go after Trump and try to paint him as careless. Not careless. Well, I guess that kind of works. Lacking empathy. When remember, he was the one visiting Arlington. He was the one that was showing empathy. Biden and Harris have not done that once. Looking at their watch, these type of things, saying at the debate that no one died, no service member died under Biden's watch, which was a lie. So they haven't recognized these 13 that died in Afghanistan because it wouldn't be politically expedient for them. It wouldn't be politically good. One Gold Star family member who was at the cemetery with Trump backed up the campaign's version of the events and claimed the cemetery staff was lying. We are the ones that invited Trump. He didn't invite himself, said Darren Hoover, the father of Marine Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover. We invited him because we knew that he had our backs. He supports us. He cares about us. While I was there, I didn't witness anything, any physical altercation or anything like that. And quite frankly, the Arlington staff is lying. I mean, it's a flat out lie. We wanted the pictures to memorialize, what President Trump had said and done, and that moment where he's paying his respects to our children. The Gold Star family member also said Trump's support is a far cry more than what the current administration has done, which is absolutely nothing. The current administration wants to sweep it under the rug and make sure it stays buried. And you know who helps them keep it buried? The media, which we are going to talk about in depth. We do have to take another short break. So what are your thoughts? Here's a couple questions that we've posed this morning. What are your thoughts on tonight's interview on CNN with Harris and Walz? It's not a standalone. It's not just Harris. No, getting that backup from Walz. Do you have now Hugh Hewitt, who you may be familiar with? In full disclosure, I've interviewed him. I do think he has some interesting pieces sometimes. I also tend to disagree with him. He gives people I don't even want to say the benefit of the doubt. He says that Dana Bash is very professional, that she will do a very professional job. I don't tend to disagree. I disagree. I think sometimes Hugh Hewitt, and I don't want to pick on Hugh Hewitt by any means, but I think he's more of a kind of a, how do I want to say it? Kind of the old school Republican that, like a McCain or a Romney, that always, you're doing a good job, but, kind of that, put that disclaimer, not wanting to hurt someone's feelings or something to that extent, or trusting in the media. I don't know why I got on that tangent, but he has some questions that he thinks should be asked. We may get to that. We also have sometimes the funniest people, and those are comments on X, or formerly known as Twitter. We'll be talking about that as well. Let's take a short break, though. Keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in. We got a low wave day this morning. A lot of that is, too, not a lot of people on the street for some reason this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. Boy, this is going quick. All right, we got about 15 minutes left in the first hour. So we've got a comment from a viewer. Tonight's interview... Oh, let me take a step back. Afghanistan is to Harris and Biden what Tiananmen Square is to China. It was supposed to be forgotten about and history erasing it, just like what the current Harris platform is. Erasing history, yes. Another comment. Oh, there we go. Tonight's interview shouldn't even be considered an interview. Unless it is answering questions live, it is just a fluff piece. Also, there's something to be said about going to kind of a hostile environment. Now, I'm not saying extremely hostile, but like Trump does and Vance does. I mean, watch Vance's interview from over the weekend with ABC. The hatred is so blatant, but you know that Harris will not give an interview with Fox News, and theirs would be fair. That's the difference. That's what's so frustrating. They've painted this label on Fox News where that would be a hostile environment. It would not be. She'd be asked the questions the mainstream media should be asking her. Because remember, Harris is a nominee, and yet she's never been voted on by her party. There's questions there. There's also questions about her policy because there is no policy statements on her website. The American people, the American voter, have a right to know where she stands on the issues, and has her positions changed, like her anonymous aides will say, has her positions changed from when she ran back in 2019? Will Dana Bash ask these questions? I think it's safe to say it will be, as this viewer has said, a fluff piece. Now, Stephen Collinson from CNN says that Harris's CNN interview is the latest highly anticipated twist in the wild presidential race. Well, why is it a twist? The presidential nominee giving an interview is now considered a twist? Wow, that was shocking. Harris faces the next test in her presidential bid on Thursday with her first unscripted interview with a major media outlet since becoming the Democrat nominee. Again, avoiding the fact that Walz will be with her, so it's not a standalone interview. Also, why would an interview for presidential candidate be considered a test? Isn't that standard? Isn't that 101? And they said next, Stephen Constant says next test. What were her other tests? Was it giving a speech at the DNC in front of a favorable crowd? Again, I would like some answers for literally the opening sentence of this piece by Stephen Collinson. It could be a 3-page response in what that sentence means. I want answers for a lot of those questions. We will never receive them. Harris will be hoping to extend the momentum. There it is. She's conjured at the start of her campaign, and to avoid the types of unforced errors that plagued her first presidential bid in 2019, as well as her early days as vice president. Not later days. Later days, she was so on point as vice president, but those early days, maybe the first couple weeks, had a lot of unforced errors. It's amazing how they write for Democrats and how they would write for a Republican. It's also a chance for the newly anointed candidate to heighten a contrast with Republican nominee Donald Trump, to connect with undecided voters, and to highlight her credentials to lead in the Oval Office at a tense time for the United States at home and abroad. Why is it a tense time for the United States at home and abroad? Out of curiosity, Mr. Collinson. Because if I recall correctly, during the Trump administration, there was peace and prosperity. There wasn't, Russia wasn't in Ukraine, Israel wasn't at war. But anyway, let's not go into that. And she should highlight a contrast between her and Trump, because it seems as everything she's proposed has been a complete ripoff, i.e., no tax on tips, from Trump. Harris will appear alongside her vice presidential pick. Third paragraph down, that finally comes up. Harris will appear alongside her vice presidential pick, Tim Walz, in a CNN primetime special airing at 9 p.m. tonight from Georgia, where she is on a bus tour designed to put a swing state the GOP thought it was close to securing in November back on board. The interview is the most important chapter of the campaign between last week's Democratic convention in Chicago and the presidential debate set for Philadelphia on September 10th. So doing one interview satisfies the media. Think about what they said there. I don't want to just focus on this. I apologize, but it's so infuriating. So this is another chapter. So the first chapter is the DNC. Okay. Fine, I'll accept that. The next chapter is an interview. And the third chapter means that don't expect any more interviews between now and September 10th. So doing an interview as a presidential candidate is considered a chapter in your campaign. Not just standard, not just 101, not just something you should be doing as regularly, as frequently as you can. No, instead, it is a chapter. The interview has taken an elevated significance because of the compressed race Harris is running after she became her party's candidate, and because of the way it mushroomed into an issue between the feuding campaigns. Wait, no. It shouldn't be between the campaigns. It should be a mushroomed issue by the media and the voters, Mr. Collinson. Don't put the onus, the blame on Vance and Trump. Do your duty, do your job as a quote-unquote journalist, and call for more than one interview. It's the latest highly anticipated moment in a wild race that has seen Trump become the first major party nominee to be convicted of a crime and the ex-president survive an assassination attempt. Notice that they don't talk about, I'm 4 paragraphs in, and have yet to talk about it being, they wanted to make sure you knew it was unscripted. That should probably be in quotes. Second thing, they yet to mention that it's pre-recorded. Let me take a break. I swear I'm not just going to talk the whole rest. I can't swear that. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
When life gets a little bit sweeter. Your day gets a little bit wilder. And things seem a lot more fun. You must have the fair on your mind.
Come to the fair!
The Great New York State Fair. Great memories made here.
Vamos, dale pues, vamos allá, muévete más loco como solo tú lo sabes. Así es, con las manos en la cabeza, sacúdete, 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 mira.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you for joining us. A comment from Ken before we get back to what Stephen Collinson predicts from tonight's interview. But we want to hear from someone that actually knows what they're talking about, and that's Ken from Horseheads. So today is the day for what will probably be the one and only Harris interview. That's a great question. Ken didn't pose a question. I will, though, to those watching. Do you think Harris will give more interviews? I don't think there'll be one before the debate. Stephen Collinson even made that clear. Will she do one a month with a friendly outlet, or will she not do any at all? I think Ken raises a good point. I had not really thought about that. I mean, I figured she would sprinkle some in here and there with friendly media outlets, but you could very well be right. They just have to run out the clock until November 5th, which, as you look at your calendar, is nearing and is very, let's face it, very soon. Here we are almost in September, but we'll continue with what Ken had to say. I can't wait to hear the follow-up comments from the compliant legacy media. I'm sure it will be the greatest interview in history, and the non-critical thinking Democrat sheeple will all be pleased with her presidential mastery of the policies she is proposing while giving no specifics. What the sheeple don't think about, or won't think about, is that she has been practicing for this interview for the last few days with CNN. And by the way, it was kind of admitted, Ken, in that one piece that she has these off-the-record Q&As with media in the back of Air Force Two. Well, that's just used to practice. We know that. I mean, if they can't comment and they can't release what she said, what is it other than, like you said, practice? So I don't think it's just with CNN. I think it's with all media outlets. Oh, don't say it that way. Or here's a question you'll probably get in the future if you do any more interviews. Word it this way so we can spin it for you. She will be joined by Walls, who will be there to chime in if she stumbles, while limiting the questions Harris will be asked. Yes, I mean, he's going to take up time. Let's say it's not even half. Let's say it's just 1/4. That's still 1/4 less time that we have with a nominee for president of the United States who has never received a vote to be in that position. And I continue with what Ken had to say. I always interject into Ken's comments, and I apologize. It'll be limiting the questions Harris will be asked, and the fact that the interview was pre-recorded, so it could be edited to correct anything that doesn't look presentable to the general public, who never chose her to run for the presidency. Exactly. Ken, spot on. Back to what Stephen Collinson had to say just quickly. Adding substance to a joyful rollout. By not scheduling a major interview before now, Harris opened herself to complaints, ready, by Trump and some nonpartisan observers that she is trying to dodge scrutiny. Some, shouldn't it be all nonpartisan observers? Shouldn't we get to know the candidate for presidency of the United States? It's not Trump that has made the complaints, just Trump. It should be, and I guess Collinson's right. It wasn't the media. It wasn't Stephen Collinson, or Collison, however you say his name. Stephen Collinson. It wasn't the supposed legacy media, the mainstream media, calling for or demanding for her to answer questions, to stop dodging scrutiny. And that goes to show you what kind of disservice they do for the country. Think of that line. Harris opened herself to complaints by Trump and some nonpartisan observers. It should be all nonpartisan observers. And that should say from voters. From voters who know she's trying to dodge scrutiny. I said I wasn't going to talk about this all morning. We're going to get, I'm just going to just completely get rid of it. I'm not. There's a couple of things I want to bring from it. It's just such a perfect example of the media bias. But we got to wrap up this hour. Stay with us. Hour number 2 on its way after this.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
And we are back. Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll be talking with Karen Cromer from the Clements Center, telling us about the upcoming Broadway season. We were talking about tonight's big interview with Harris and Walz on CNN. A comment from a viewer, just another example of the closed-door politics that the Democratic Party embraces. Yes, these smoke-filled rooms, if you will. So we're back to Stephen Collinson's piece, and I'm moving away, but just to show you the bias. While Harris sparked intense enthusiasm at last week's star-studded Democratic convention in Chicago, as well as in joyful rallies among Democrats who were previously demoralized over Biden's chances of re-election, she has yet to enter a forum where her answers and policies can be cross-examined. Her speeches have been packed with what she wants to do as president, from easing the economic burden on Americans to unleashing a house-building boom to winning the geopolitical contest of the 21st century against China. But the vice president has not been specific about exactly how she would enact some of those aspirations and how she would finance them in deeply divided Washington. Yeah, and if she has the answers to these, does that mean that Biden doesn't trust her? Why wouldn't they have fixed this from day one? Why couldn't she go in and say, hey, I can win the geopolitical contest with China. I can unleash a house-building boom, et cetera, et cetera. But this is important to remember as you watch it tonight. I'm going to continue with what Stephen Collinson had to say, and it's going to give a couple of examples that we're getting away. The interview has become a hurdle for the vice president because Trump aides have been goading her into it for weeks, apparently believing she'll flunk difficult questions, will blank on policy details, and that she lacks nimble political instincts. Well, I mean, a couple things there. We saw that in 2019. But we do know, as to Ken's point and others, she will have practiced long and hard for tonight. Well, pre-recorded, so yesterday. Also, why is it always Trump? We're going to have another example of this. Trump always goading her into doing it. She is the nominee for president of the United States, and she has not given a single interview, a single press conference. And it's Trump's fault that finally got under her skin. But see what they say there. Apparently believing she'll flunk difficult questions. Unlike Trump, she doesn't swamp interviewers with torrents of falsehoods, outrageous statements, and bombast, which means he often is able to distract attention from what he actually says. Make sure you get that in there. Republicans are convinced Harris will be exposed in high-pressure situations. This is exactly what they did with Biden, folks, and just be prepared for it. To Ken's point where he said this is going to be one of the greatest speeches of all time, yes, because what Stephen Collinson and others in the media have done is really downplay her, set the bar so low. Trump thinks she's going to just do horrible. It'll be the end of her candidacy. They do those things just like they said with Biden. They did it so many times with Biden because then if she has a somewhat okay interview, it will be considered a great interview. See, she's ready for prime time. We knew it. The prosecutor is back. Now that all those people that quit working for her are out of her way and the reins are off, she can finally pull it off. She can finally be herself and be successful, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see, number one, you're not going to see any glaring gaffes tonight. You're not going to see some Biden debate performance, not only because it could possibly be edited, but also because of softball questions, et cetera, et cetera. You're not going to see that. So by Stephen Collinson and others in the media say, boy, Trump knows that this is going to bring her down, that she's going to bomb, there's going to be word salads. They do that to set the bar so low that they absolutely have no problem saying that the speech was great. Tonight's going to be interview, excuse me. This interview tonight is going to be very presidential. It's going to be very historic. It's going to show who Harris really is. Those are the headlines. And we know it. We saw it with the DNC about that great historic speech, the second coming of Obama, for heaven's sakes. That is what we'll hear tonight as well to keep that momentum going. And remember, they only need that momentum to keep that momentum going until November 5th, which is right around the corner. Kamala Harris was what's the term I want to use? Ridiculed, mocked by Stephen Collinson. Now, Stephen Collinson is on CNN. He is the Republican commentator at CNN. Scott Jennings, used to be a special assistant to George W. Bush. He said, I think it's incredibly weak sauce to show up with your running mate. He added that Harris had a troubling lack of confidence in her political ability. It makes you wonder as a voter, what kind of president would you be? I think Republicans are going to think it's pretty weak to show up effectively with someone who'll take up half the time. National Review writer Jeff Blear said, a joint interview. She simply cannot be left unattended. At this point, I expect Harris to demand the phone-a-friend option at the September 10th debate, just like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Democrats are also so terrified to let Harris out of the basement without adult supervision that they're sending Walls with her to the first interview she's giving as a nominee to keep an eye on things. Author Carol Roth said Kamala Harris bringing Walls to her first interview is like the young job candidate who brings their parents to their first interview. I wouldn't hire either. Yes, some comparing it to an emotional support dog. I don't listen. They point to that interview she gave not that long ago with Lester Holt and how she said she'd been to the border and got angry, and of course she hadn't been. I haven't been to the border of Europe either. It got really weird. There is not a realm. There's not a scenario in any world where Dana Bash risks her job by having the Harris-Walls campaign do poorly. And when I say job, her reputation, she'll be forever, tarred as a Trump apologist. So there is not a scenario. There'll be a couple sprinkled in there that will sound tough or maybe be something that you wouldn't expect. And I'm not saying pre-planned in the sense of here's the questions ahead of time, Harris. No. I mean, there is precedent on that with Hillary and Bernie in that debate with Donna Brazile. But let's put that aside. Let's not get that conspiratorial. Let's say that, nope, she doesn't know the questions. There'll be a couple in there that will be at face value look like, well, that's kind of a tough question that Harris will be so prepared for. Because remember, she has been practicing. That one piece said it without saying it, that she's giving Q&A interviews with reporters off the record. That's all practice. She'll be ready for anything that comes at her. So even one that seems tough, where they finally got her, she'll have some twist in a pretzel answer. Make no mistake about it. Now, the people are questioning, and I think it's fair, will CNN edit this interview? One, I can't remember who said it, demanding that they release a full unedited interview. I don't believe you will see that. Trump's War Room Twitter account said 39 days since being installed as the Democratic nominee, Kamala will sit down for her first formal interview. Joint, since she's not competent enough to do it on her own. Taped, so her handlers have time to play damage control. Yes, think of the hostile environments that Trump and Vance go to, which is any mainstream media outlet. I don't know why I say hostile as if there's just one. And they will give the interviews. And you know what that gets you? It gets you called a fascist. You know what happens if you're a Democrat and you don't give interviews? It's a smart political move. Amazing how that works. The entire interview needs to be released unedited, demanded communications guru Steve Guest. That's who said it. Ryan Savard from Daily Wire said Kamala Harris finally agrees to an interview, and it's with CNN's Dana Bash, who is one of the most biased people at the network, and it appears that it will be pre-taped and thus likely edited in a manner to help her. Now, this is... Okay, we're going to take a break. I'm going to go through just a few questions that Hugh Hewitt believes should be asked at the debate. Now, Hugh Hewitt is kind of the old school Republican that caves in a lot, maybe is a term to use, caves in, wants to be liked by maybe those on the left. I'm not completely knocking him. I'm just telling you my opinion. In full disclosure, I interviewed him in the past. Nice guy, gets interviews with Trump, gets interviews with major Republicans. But I find it interesting, the questions he believes should be asked. I'm not really a big fan of these kind of articles as a rule, because we know Dana Bash will not ask them. But I'll ask you. We may not be able to get to all of them. What question do you think should be asked of Kamala Harris? Keep it clean. What question do you think should be asked that not maybe, that you think the American voter who never had a choice with Harris, who could never vote for her or against her, what question should be answered that those voters need to know? Is it policy? I mean, I'd love to hear from you. Text it in. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. Let's take a short break. We will be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
We are proud to serve our country, to serve our local communities, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier, to serve abroad when and where duty calls. We are ready to stand with our brothers and sisters to defend, to serve, to fight. We're always ready, we're always there. We are the New York Army National Guard.
I'm Marianne Burke. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie-cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with the no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
It's time for the world's fastest, most extreme sport, the NHRA on Fox.
We're going to give it every single ounce that we have this weekend.
It's coming down just to the wire. We're all feeling it.
Gone like a shot.
You got to bring it all.
This ain't just racing. The NHRA on Fox.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, posing the question, what question do you think Harris should be asked? We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Coming up in a little bit, we'll be hearing from the Clemens Center. Here's comments from viewers. Frankly, if a political party does not have its foundation in the determination to advance a cause that is right and that is moral, then it is not a political party. It is merely a conspiracy to seize power. That's a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower from March of 1956. Thank you very much. From another viewer, this is some questions that they would pose. Well, first of all, a good comment here. They can spend half the time just asking how she chose Walz. That's a good point. That'll most likely come up because he's right there, right? But why should I vote for you when as a Democrat you never got a vote for you at all? We never had voted for you at all. And you keep telling me we need to save the democracy. Don't you realize we live in a constitutional republic? Thank you. Keep those questions for Harrison that will never be asked. And I was just thinking, okay, so we've talked about it for a good chunk of the morning this morning. And let's be honest, I could have spent the full 2 hours talking about tonight's interview. There are radio and television shows throughout the country doing the same thing throughout the day, talking about, maybe not analyzing it, and definitely not analyzing it as good as you are and that we are here on Frankly Speaking, but analyzing what the interview could be tonight. That is one interview for someone that is running for president of the United States, who received the nomination, has been the presumptive nominee for, I think the number is 37 days. And this much focus is on an upcoming interview, not a, well, she said this last night or he said this 2 days ago. This is about speculation about what she will say because it is so rare. How pathetic is this election cycle? How pathetic are the media for not demanding more from the nominee for president of the United States? That this much talk, and it's important talk, I'm not downplaying, I'm glad we're talking about it, but that's our focus right now and the focus of so many throughout the land about what the speech will look like tonight, what she'll say. Or the interview. I keep saying speech. I apologize. But what she'll say, oh, it's with Walz. Why? And yet Trump's given how many interviews? Vance has given how many interviews? And actual hostile environments. It goes to show you a little bit about, I think, if you take a step back, it's the prime example of what we talked about so long, letting Harris run out the clock. Because people are actually talking about an interview that has yet to happen with the presidential nominee of the Democratic ticket, Democratic Party, who never received a vote to be in that position. This much talk is happening. Amazing. Okay. We're going to get to your comments. I see a lot of comments coming up. This is why I want you to take it with a grain of salt, what Hugh Hewitt had to say, as we're asking you to pose questions for Harris. He says, Harris has a right to be nervous. Dana Bash is a professional and will not ask questions about the importance of abortion rights or an assault weapons ban, as we know what Harris thinks on these issues. The electorate needs to learn things about Harris that we do not currently know. I think there's a naivete there to think that Dana Bash is really going to be a professional here. There's a great piece at Fox News that says, is it Fox News? Yeah. Dana Bash snags the Harris Walls interview, and she has a history of ripping Trump. So Hugh Hewitt has, and I don't need to do this disclaimer anymore, but has that old school Republican style, which is almost like a reach across the aisle attitude. I think he wants to be liked by those in the media that don't respect him. But these are the 15 questions he wants asked. How many do you think will be asked? Number one, President Biden named you as the lead in the effort to stem the flow of migrants across our southern border in March of 2021. That did not happen. Why? How many people entered the country without invitation since you and Joe Biden took over? What was your role in the withdrawal from Afghanistan? In your acceptance speech, you noted the horrors that occurred in Israel on October 7th, as well as the loss of innocent lives in Gaza. Was it your intent in any way to equate the massacre on October 7th with Israel's actions in Gaza since then? Did Israel have the right this past weekend to strike Hezbollah in a preemptive attack on the terrorist missile force? Does Israel have the right to strike Iran to preempt any attack from Iran? If Israel's attacked by Iran, would it be legitimate for Israel to destroy the oil export facilities on Karg Island? If China attempts to invade Taiwan, will American military forces be used to defend the island nation? That's a good question. 9, should the Supreme Court be expanded in size? 10, how much of the GDP should be spent on the Pentagon? 11, how do you fix the recruitment crisis our military is experiencing? 12, America's ability to lead and indeed dominate in AI and supercomputing requires at least a doubling of our total domestic energy output. That is easiest to accomplish with new nuclear power plants. Do you support building them? 13, you were absolutely against fracking in your 2019 presidential campaign. What is your policy on fracking now? 14, what is the highest marginal tax rate you want to see enacted into law, and at what level of adjusted gross income should that rate apply? And finally, what is the most significant issue on which you have disagreed with President Biden? What do you think? Those are just to prime the pump, to get you thinking out there. What questions do you think should be answered by the nominee for President of the United States on the Democrat Party, who has never received a vote from voters to have that job and has yet to put policy positions up on our website, has yet to do a sit-down interview? Tonight's interview, of course, not by herself, with her running mate, Coach Walls. I see a lot of questions coming in already. We're going to go to a break. Then we're going to hear just quickly from Karen Cromer of the Clemens Center, so you can be prepared for this upcoming Broadway season. And then when we come back, I'll read all the questions that we could fit in. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Hesselsen's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselsen's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselsen's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Rated the hearing aids of 2023 by Forbes, the Audion Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-434-9816 or go to audionhearing.com to get your pair of Audion hearing aids starting at just $189.
Summer with a diamond in it?
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and this is the Stu Benz Senior Services Fund section of our program. And from the Clement Center, Karen, thanks so much for being back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So the big announcement, the Broadway season, how exciting is this?
This is always the best time of year.
Yeah. You wait all year for this, don't you?
Well, we do. We plan a whole year ahead, actually. So we are so anxious to get this going. It's the M&T Bank Broadway season, and we kick everything off with Ain't Too Proud in September.
This sounds great. And that's all about the Temptations, correct?
Yes, this is, if you don't come for the music, come for the choreography.
Okay.
Because it'll be dazzling. It'll be so fun to have them here. And they're actually doing technical rehearsals here. So they're here for 2 full weeks before they do the performances.
Oh, wow. And that's right around the corner. Well, because summer went so quickly. September 19th will be here in no time. And I want to talk about some of the other, obviously, the shows coming up. But before that, what has the reaction been so far to the announcement of the season?
We've had a really great response. We are on par with the subscription renewals for what we have hoped for. So subscription is always the best way to make sure that you get into every program that you want to see, and it's the lowest single ticket price offered. So I would jump on a subscription now while you can. We'll sell them up until Ain't Too Proud, and then we'll go to smaller packages thereafter.
And they are on sale right now.
Correct. Yeah. You can also get single tickets to Ain't Too Proud, but don't you want to see all these other shows?
Of course. We're going to talk about those in a second. How you've doing this through the years, have you found that people return and keep buying subscriptions year after year, almost like season ticket holders at a Bills game or something like that?
It is kind of like that. And we do with our members, we are able to reseat them. We have some attrition year over year, but then we create a list, and as we get requests for moving around, we are able to move people up to that 50-yard line. So
that's beautiful.
We'll appreciate that. Yeah, we're small enough that we know our people well enough that we can do that in this community, and you can't really do that in Buffalo.
Sure. Now, when you mentioned you work on this all year, so this must just feel so good, not only to make the announcement, but when Ain't Too Proud kicks off and you realize all this hard work paid off, what goes into your decision making? Because it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is something for everybody.
Yeah. We have a Broadway presenting partner out of Binghamton, and we work with them very closely on all the routing of shows in upstate New York. Okay. So they're very involved with the tours to Rochester, Syracuse, Erie, even Scranton, Pennsylvania. So they work hard to give us as best a deal that we can get for the small market and get the best shows that we can. So they float things by us and tell us what's touring, and we can go yay or nay. And we know our community so well, like I mentioned, that we know kind of what the flavor is, and all of these shows are new except for the Addams Camp.
Oh, wow. So let's go through them. So coming up after Ain't Too Proud, which is September 19th and the 20th, we've got 6, which is on November 8th and 9th. What is 6?
6 is the very unhappy wives of Henry VIII coming back to tell us their tales. Okay. So this is a very vibrant, exciting, energized show. It runs straight through, no intermission, and people want to see it again and again. So we're looking forward to that one. And they are also going to be in town doing their technical rehearsals prior to performance.
Oh, wow. And then coming up, you said it's been here before, but it's a fan favorite, and that's the Addams Family, January 21st, 22nd.
Right, yep. We expect to have a lot of Wednesday fans coming out to check out the family. It's great old humor, going back to when I was little and they were on TV. So we really appreciate the Addams.
And then March 18th through the 19th, it's Clue. Now, is that like the classic board game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. So we've got all your favorite characters, and this one is also very fast-paced, and it's very, very funny. So suitable for everybody in the family.
And then April 21st through the 22nd, I've heard a lot about this. I am not overly familiar with it, but that's only because I live in a bubble. Dear Evan Hansen.
This one is teenage angst, I would say.
Okay.
So it's a little heavier, and it's kind of a heavier show to end the season. A lot of our younger patrons will be familiar with this one, but I think it's an important one.
Sure.
And has some very serious societal questions to be answered.
So we were talking about, because they all sound amazing, and there is something for everyone. The Broadway series subscriptions are on sale now. What are some of the benefits? You mentioned cheaper today. What are some of the benefits of being a season ticket holder?
You know exactly where you're seated.
That's got to be the greatest.
You know exactly where you're headed every time. You know who's seated around you. So if you've got friends, family, it's a great place to come and meet up with people, and there's lots of hugs and smiles and recognition in the lobby. Being a season ticket holder means you get first notice of new programming as we add it to the schedule. We are going to be really fully booked this year. We've got a lot of other things besides Broadway. It's not just all Broadway. So we'll be announcing those. So if you're in tune with us, we can let you know what's happening.
So those are top secret. I can't get those out of you right now.
Well, we might be able to. We definitely always have the school time programming.
Okay.
We've got 9 different titles and 15 performances. They are pre-K through grade 12 shows, core curriculum driven. The schools bring the kids on a field trip, and they just ooh and ah at the theater when they get here for the first time. It's fantastic. And I'd say that the audience is like Jell-O. They don't stop moving the whole time.
Of course.
It's a very different audience.
Yeah.
And then we have the family connection shows.
Okay.
So these are Saturday matinees at 2. These are more affordable than Broadway for families to be able to take the whole group,
Okay.
mom and dad, and the grandparents, and everybody come out. We also have a sensory-friendly performance as part of that series. So that's for the neurodivergent population.
Okay.
Those that need a little toned down program and that feel welcome within the audience. So everybody here is a little different, a little off, a little, and it's fantastic. It's welcoming atmosphere, and we have a great time. We hand out fidgets at the door.
Oh, wow.
So
What a great idea.
yeah, it's a great time.
So obviously the Clemens Center, so historic, such an important part of our community. Like you mentioned, some of these shows, people be in our area, spending money in our area for long periods of time. How can we support, other than, of course, purchasing season tickets, or individual tickets, how can we support the Clemens Center?
Clemens Center always has opportunities for you to be a donor of your time, talent, or treasure.
Okay.
So if you want to get involved with us and be a little bit closer to the shows and the programming, volunteer.
Yeah.
You get to see behind the scenes and help us make some decisions, help us get the patrons in and out safely, and enjoy a little bit of the program at no cost to yourself. We also take treasure. So if you have some money that you would like to invest in a great community organization, we are proud to say now that we are a Better Business Bureau charitable organization. So we have been accredited by the BBB, and we are very transparent on how we spend the donations that come in. We'd be glad to tell you about the projects coming up and see if there's a good fit for your heart.
And just before we go, we talked last year at this exciting time for you, the opening of the Broadway season. How did last year go? I should ask you that.
Last year we exceeded expectations.
Oh, isn't that great?
So, we were able to do just a little bit more for our loyal employees who've hung with us through thick and thin.
Yeah.
And been able to invest back into the campus here to the
great.
courtyard. You'll see some changes and improvements there. And we're working on some new stuff for next year. So I can't tell you about
All right, well, we'll talk about it next year, though, promise? All right, so final question, the tough question. We mentioned all of the Broadway season. Which one are you personally looking forward to the most?
Oh, Ain't Too Proud.
Yeah.
I grew up with the music,
Of
and
course.
I'm so looking forward to that dancing.
What a fun kickoff to the season, right? You couldn't ask for better. And that's coming up on September 19th and the 20th. So before we go, where can people find out more?
Go to clementcenter.org. Look on social media and follow us so that you get the latest updates on what's going on sale. New and different things happening in Mandeville Hall over the fall and spring. And we're looking forward to shaking it up a bit this year because we're going to be celebrating the 100th year of the theater in 2025.
Oh,
Yeah.
so next year, you're right. There's probably going to be a lot in store.
A lot of new and different programming.
Oh, great. Well, Karen, thanks so much for being on the show this morning.
You're very welcome.
Best of luck. I know you're going to have a blast with it. So we'll talk again soon, all right?
Great.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Just look at the difference. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99. But wait, Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0371 or visit getangelview.com. Order now.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox. Because here is where it happens. Saturday on Fox, Judge swaggered up and went supersonic. True story. Saturday on Fox, the Dodgers put on a show in New York. You saw that, right? Saturday on Fox, De La Cruz showed off his record-breaking arm. And it was Saturday on Fox when Harper went all Harper. So yeah, Saturday on Fox is where it happens.
College football Friday and Big Noon Saturday kick off a whole new era of college football.
I cannot wait for this game.
With new matchups, historic rivalries, and brand new conference clashes.
Listen to this crowd come alive.
The Big 10, Big 12,
unbelievable,
and Mountain West are hitting Friday and Saturday harder than ever.
Monstrous hit.
This is the season we've all been waiting for. College football.
And we are back. Thank you so much to Karen Cromer from the Clements Center for being our guest this morning. I really appreciate it. So we've posed a question. What question would you ask Harris if you were Dana Bash? Before that, a comment from a viewer. ABC has a poll that shows that Harris is up. Are the people missing something when they watch her? First time in 240 years that people did not vote for her, vote for the nominee for president. Also, what's going on at Cornell? I'm hearing protests. It's so sad, the hate. Yes, we brought this up earlier in the week. I see that it's finally being reported on. I would say that we were very early on this story because it was opening day at Cornell Monday, which also happened to be the day that Hochul held that virtual meeting with the heads of New York universities and colleges to talk about anti-Semitism on college campus, why she waited so late to the point where Cornell actually that was their opening day. Yes, that started on day one. At Cornell, there was destruction of property. There was vandalism, anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish statements made through graffiti on the walls. So, yeah, I think you're going to see a more aggressive tone from Cornell because they were really behind the eight ball in the spring protests when other colleges were getting more attention. Cornell, historically, kind of considered a left campus, of course, being in Ithaca. I think they're making up for lost time. So, yes, it is sad, the hate. I'm going to condense this. So we received so many questions that people would like to ask Harris, or they think that Dana Bash should ask Harris tonight. I'm going to condense one because this was a very common one. So I'm sorry. I just don't want to keep reading the same thing over and over. But this was perhaps the most common. And it ties in with Josh Shapiro, the governor of PA. And it was said at the time that Harris did not pick Shapiro as her running mate because he is Jewish. And there is, as Van Jones said, a marbling in the Democratic Party of anti-Semitic bigotry. And she didn't want to lose that vote, essentially. I was surprised at how many people commented that would be a question they would ask. Why didn't she pick Shapiro and ask her about her stance on Israel and on the Jewish population, the students, the Jewish students that are being intimidated on college campuses? So even though some of you worded it differently and like that was a common question, asking about her support or lack thereof of Israel, what she thinks of the anti-Semitic hate crimes and protests going on throughout the country and on college campuses, and why did she not pick Josh Shapiro? So thank you for those. Next up, how are you going to bring fuel and food prices down? Yes, and I would add to that if I could be presumptuous enough to add to your question, viewer. If you know how to do that, why haven't you done so far? Because you are the last person in the room with Biden. She brags about that, has that final say in a way. Why would you have not implemented these ahead of time? Does your boss not trust you? I think that's a fair question. Next up, I like this one too. Harris, what is your plan? What are you doing on day one? Now, I know, as Trump has said and many others, she's already had a day one, 3.5, almost 4 years ago. But as president, what would you do on day one? Very good question. Oh, thank you for the waves, by the way. Next question from a viewer. How does she plan on bringing back manufacturing or lowering fuel prices? Another great question. Does she plan on continuing the war in Ukraine, funding the war in Ukraine? Another question from a different viewer. After the election, does she plan on continuing to give our Social Security to illegal immigrants? Did you see that, by the way, just as a side note, what California is doing with the home loans for illegal migrants? Just so you know, I bring this up, it is California. But what California does are the disastrous policies that California enacts, we normally enact a few months or years later, and vice versa. California lawmakers are ripping this plan, but they approved $150,000 down payment, what is being called a handout, to illegal immigrant home buyers. The Democrat-controlled California legislature has passed a polarizing bill that would make the Golden State the first in the nation to offer down payment assistance to illegal immigrant home buyers. Assembly Bill 1840, which was approved Wednesday, would grant undocumented immigrants access to the state's taxpayer-funded home loan program, which provides up to $150,000 in down payment assistance for eligible first-time home buyers. Okay, that was just a side note. Next question from a viewer, and if you are just tuning in, we're posing the question: what should Dana Bash ask tonight on CNN? Well, what should she have asked? What should she have asked yesterday? Because it's a pre-recorded interview. Okay, I would ask her what her GPA was. Good question. And then finally, from a different viewer, it doesn't matter what she's asked; she'll only lie. Thank you very much. CNN's Dana Bash does have a long history of, no pun intended, bashing Trump. So that, some are already seeing the bias. Obviously, she is not, as CNN, in a hostile environment to take these questions. As the New York Post editorial board has said, all signs lead to this being an infomercial. After weeks of dodging serious press questions, Kamala Harris will finally do a live, unedited interview, one-on-one with a fiercely critical journalist. Of course, they're joking. They then say not. Instead, it'll be a 2-on-1 chat with vice presidential nominee Tim Walz as her wingman. And it will be pre-taped to air at 9 p.m. America will never know what Harris's word salads, or worse, get left on the cutting room floor. That's why so many people are demanding that the complete, unedited interview be put up on the web. I would not hold my breath. And it won't be, say, Fox News' Brett Baer asking the questions, but Dana Bash from cam-friendly CNN. No doubt, because her campaign couldn't find a journalist more in love with Harris and hostile to Donald Trump than Dana Bash. Making it a tag team defense understandably has sparked the most outrage, but all the arrangements show that Harris's campaign wants the least possible transparency. This is the woman who wants to be the first female president, unable to face an objective reporter live or on her own. How will she handle adversaries like Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping? No, this looks less like an interview and more of an infomercial, says the New York Post. All spin from start to finish. The big test for Bash is whether she pushes Harris to explain and defend her plans. Does she truly now favor fracking, as her campaign suggests? Or is she closer to her 2019 vow, quote, there's no question I'm in favor of banning it? And if she really is flipping, why was she wrong in 2019? Does she plan on pushing government-only health care, Medicare for all, an end of private insurance as she suggested back then? If not, what changed? Is she still a backer of the Green New Deal? How does her sudden willingness to fund Trump's border wall square with her earlier view that funding it, quote, would be a gross misuse of taxpayer money? Indeed, a new Harris ad paints her as eager to beef up security at the border. It even shows pictures of the wall. So why hasn't Harris, President Biden's border czar, seen that it's already beefed up? Most important, this is one single interview. Even if Bash gets tough, voters can only learn a bit. A normal nominee has been doing debates, town halls, press conferences, and one-on-one interviews for a year at this point. It has detailed a host of policies and plans. To level with the public, Harris should be doing at least one interview a day right up till November 5th. And as Ken speculated, and I would tend to agree, this could be the only interview that we see. It's already been stated by even Stephen Collinson that this is an important chapter in her campaign and until September 10th. So sounding as if there will not be, the media's accepted it, there will not be another interview before the September 10th debate. Oh, we've got a lot of more questions coming up. We'll get to those in just a moment. I do have to take another short break. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the media bias, not from Bash. We're going to move on from that, but please keep your questions coming in. But we've already spent over an hour talking about an interview that's going to happen tonight, just to show you that lack of media interest in having Harris explain her position. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. Keep those comments coming in. Oh, hey, keep those waves coming in as well. Thank you. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll be back after this short commercial break.
Lease a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Limited all-wheel drive featuring heated leather seats and power moonroof for only $379 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox. The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Akam. So many great comments coming in. Here's one. I would ask Harris why she did at 180 on fracking. I know I kind of beat you the punch on that with a New York Post article. Well, you had that in before, so thank you. Another, good morning, Frank. Please help me understand. Oh, by the way, thank you and good morning. Please help me understand how the Biden-loving voters can't see through the obvious takeover and how they support her ever-changing flip-flopping of her stances when they voted for a different set of policies. Don't get me wrong, Biden needed to go, in my opinion, and I don't feel bad for him. Because he is a liar and a criminal. I don't get it. I've posed a question. Anybody can feel free to weigh in. That will be voting for Harris. We'd love to hear from you. The idea being that this isn't who you voted for. I mean, I would find that very frustrating. But also that she's now changing her positions in ways that historically, I believe a Biden voter would not support. So I think that's a very good question. Did you see Politico? I know we talk about media bias a lot. Politico has a piece out, and it says Vance tries to tether Harris to Biden during Michigan rally. Don't you get tethered to Biden the day you become his vice presidential pick? Why is it Vance tethering? In the piece, Politico reporter Mia McCarthy writes, speaking at a rally in Big Rapids, Michigan, former President Donald Trump's running mate tried to tie Harris to the Biden administration's policies. Well, once they got ridiculed, they had to post a community notes correction advising that, and you may not know this, a lot of people that read Politico may not know this, and I quote, Harris is currently President Biden's vice president. Vance tries to tether Harris to Biden during the Michigan rally. Many are calling this gaslighting. Now, I think gaslighting that term is misused very often. So let me give you the American Psychological Association definition. To manipulate another person into doubting their perceptions, experiences, or understanding of events. One Twitter user saying, we've reached the apex of gaslighting people. It doesn't get any more believe us and not your own eyes than this headline. Vance tries to tether Harris to Biden during a Michigan rally. I think JD Vance even reacted, writing, the thing is, she's Biden's vice president. It is unbelievable. Michael Malice saying, I knew the corporate press was shameless, but I didn't realize that they were this stupid. Some actually questioning whether or not it was a parody account. But they're not the only ones that have been pushing this, and we give you examples nearly daily. The Washington Post reporter Aaron Blake wrote, the GOP is trying hard to tie Harris more closely to Biden on the economy, immigration, and the border. One big problem, Americans don't think she played a particularly central role. That she was just some or very little influence over the Biden agenda. I mean, again, gaslighting, a term misused quite frequently, but I think this is a very prime example that trying to make sure that Harris is distanced from the failed policies of the Biden administration. The AP wrote, she's a sitting vice president who has been in office for 3.5 years. She's also the presidential candidate of just 5 weeks, promising a new way forward. Kamala Harris is having it both ways as she hits the campaign trail after the DNC, taking credit for parts of President Biden's record in rallies staged in front of Air Force Two, while casting herself as a new leader who rails against a political past. So J.D. Vance trying to tether Harris to the Biden-Harris administration. Let's take our last break of the show. We've got a lot to breeze through. We got some comments coming in. We'll read those when we come back. Get your last minute comments in before we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. One last quick reminder, because I have 30 seconds. We've received such a great outpouring on this, and it means so much to me. I cannot thank you enough. And that is support for the benefit barbecue for the Salvation Army of Corning, which is coming up on September 8th at the Nazareth Civic Center. It's just $15 per person, and anybody who's ever been to a barbecue, to a fundraiser, to a catered meal here knows Corning Catering and the great food that they provide. They will be there. It's from 1 to 4. We're going to have some very special guests that will be attending, some great live music. Just an all-around fun time to support 140 years in the area. But also, I'm going to put this up if you want to buy online, also to help to fund the Salvation Army, who does so much good for our community, folks. I can't stress that enough. So please, and we've made the suggestion, if you cannot attend, but you'd like to purchase a ticket, and so many people have done this, we are going to donate the ticket. And you can tell me to who, but, to local police, local firemen, and the like. And we've received an outpouring of that too. So I hope that you can attend, come over and say hi. If you can't, that's fine. But think about purchasing a ticket and just saying, hey, I want to donate this back, give it to a local good cause, and we will do that. You can also buy your tickets at Brown's Cigar Store, our friends at Brown's. If I happen to be in the window here at the studio, knock on the window and I would be happy to sell you some tickets. Or you can go to the Salvation Army on Denison Parkway. All right, last minute comments, last minute stories. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Electric today. The crowd, the atmosphere, this is what makes it special.
The student body are out of their mind. You want a piece of us?
This is what we do.
Here we go.
Touchdown.
Wow. Sensational.
Big noon kickoff.
And we are back, and we've got a lot to rush through here as we wrap up. All right, comments from viewers. I believe universal health care is a goal without a doubt. Most of us have seen a decline in care and service and billing that is out of control by design to give the opportunity to say we have no choice but to address this problem. Yada, yada, yada. Good point. Thank you. Another comment. Kennedy did not leave his party. They left him. And there's actually a piece by Maud Marin that said RFK Jr. could persuade moms like me to choose Trump as Kennedy Republicans. Interesting. So thank you for that. And then here's a comment. Sergeant Dave here. Hey, Dave. Love your show. Keep up the good work. Your truth is a breath of clean air. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Sergeant Dave. All right. You're not going to hear me say this often, but I thought this was, we didn't have a chance to get to this either. Daniel McCarthy has a piece that says, Trump delivered on Reagan's promises. He's the true heir conservatives seek. The true heir to the Reagan administration. The future of all Reagan secured for the country back from then now hinges on what happens in this election. Between a Republican who overall continues the Reagan legacy and a Democrat, Kamala Harris, who wants the memory of Reagan's America to go the way of the Soviet Union. You're not going to hear me say this very often, but there's a famous model that had a very good point. A fashion model. Mark Cuban, you know the name Mark Cuban, said Kamala Harris is not falling in line with Democrat Party policies. Kamala Harris is defining her own policies, and the Democrat Party is falling in line with her. She literally is redefining the party. So model Adriana Curie, who was on America's Next Top Model, said, what policies? The ones she stole from Trump? Or the ones she has stated were Trump's. So she instantly received some pushback. So she said, I was a lifelong Democrat. Why would I reward the party who betrayed me, betrayed women, and constantly betrayed their voter base by doing selections instead of elections? Bernie and RFK Jr. were robbed by a corrupt and bloated machine. So then she tripled down because she received more hate online. She said, I was a lifelong Democrat. I'll never forget the moment I saw Obama start to buddy up with globalist warmonger Bush, or when the media started to glowingly talk about Bush. I'll never forget when they started pushing extremist views about gender, identity, and kids, and then gaslight people about it. I'll never forget their campaign to convince Americans that being morbidly obese is healthy, to trust the paid-off experts. I'll never forget that they robbed Bernie twice, very good point, and later RFK Jr., of that sweet democracy they claimed to be for, to install Hillary and Kamala. I'll never forget all the Trump media hoaxes I debunked in 2020 by watching the full unedited videos. Wow, you don't hear that often. While we are out of time, by the way, Governor Hochul released a statement. This is so disingenuous. She released a statement. 92-year-old Thomas Chase was killed in Rochester by a teenager who crashed into Mr. Chase. The 17-year-old driver had been arrested 12 times this last year. This is raise the age. This is bail reform. 12 times. And this was a stolen car that he crashed into and killed Thomas Chase with. She said, our hearts are with the loved ones of Thomas Chase as they mourn the tragic loss. Governor Hochul's top priority is to keep New Yorkers safe, which is why she has worked with the legislature to deliver record funding to combat gun crimes, and car thefts, crack down on repeat offenders, and further expand the types of cases where judges have the discretion to set bail. Our administration will continue to work with law enforcement and local officials. All right. We're out of time. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Make sure you join us tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Look forward to it already.